What is up, my friends? It's a brand new week, and you're very welcome along to Monday night's Late Night Agenda, where I think it's fair to say we've a lot to talk about. A hell of a lot has happened over the past 24 hours. We're going to be speaking about Ekitike and his potential impending move to Newcastle. What does that mean for our summer transfer window? We're going to be giving you the very latest on Ibrahim Konate, as it looks like him and Real Madrid, at least according to reports, are in talks over a move for next summer. I'm going to be asking how on earth this isn't tapping up. We're also going to speak about the futures of Ben Doak. We're going to talk a little bit about Harvey Elliott, a bit about Anthony Gordon. We're going to talk about Georgie Marmadashvili and some quotes that he's had to say on joining Liverpool Football Club. That and so much more to come over the next 90 minutes or so. Bit of good news for everybody as well. We just recorded the very first episode of the brand new Anfield Agenda podcast with myself, Mr. Chris Stonage, and Mr. Steve Bland. That will be out for members at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. It'll be on the membership tab, and then it'll be available to everybody at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. So members will get it first as a little thank you for the continued support, and then it will be available on all other platforms from 10 p.m. tomorrow night. So that is the intro done. Now over to say hello to everybody in the chat. Weather's a little bit cooler over here in Ireland at the minute, so I'm certainly a bit more calm, and I can start to hear out my right ear a little bit today as well. So shouldn't be as cranky as maybe I was over the past day or two. Right, so where to start, folks? Where to start? You know what? Let's ease into it a little bit here. Let's have a few words from Georgie Marmadashvili on him signing for Liverpool Football Club. He said, "It's a huge moment for me because joining a club like Liverpool, it's not only a transfer, it's a dream come true for me. I feel ready, motivated and proud. When I agreed to Liverpool's offer last summer, I felt something special." So this is his media day. We've seen the interview. It is up if you have a chance to watch it on All Red on the Liverpool website. Do take a chance, have a look at that one as well. But Georgie Marmadashvili has done his media duties, and congratulations to him on joining the greatest football club on the planet. Paul, how are we, dude? So congratulations on your first podcast. Good evening, Craig. Thank you, my man. It was lovely. So it was like a blast from the past. We used to do content together about 3 years ago, and a lot has happened in between, so it was lovely catching up with Chris and Steve. Right, I missed it. What is it being done for members only? We're putting the podcast out early for members only, so it'll be out from 10 a.m. tomorrow. 12 hours early for members, and then it will be out on all other platforms at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. Right, folks, so as I mentioned, we have some stuff there about Georgie Marmadashvili. I'm going to get into talking about the situation with Konate in a moment, but before I do, I just want to again pay a bit of gratitude and thanks. I'm sure that you've seen this today, but Bruno Fernandes, Diogo Dalot and Ruben Amorim laid a tribute to Diogo Jota today at Anfield on behalf of Manchester United. And again, I'm sure I speak for everybody when I say class act and thank you. Again, on behalf of all of us Liverpool fans, it was a great and, again, expected gesture because United, Everton, Liverpool, we always come together in these moments, and I thought it was a lovely mark of respect towards Diogo, obviously from Manchester United as well. Right, John State, welcome to Anfield Agenda FC, my man. Appreciate you becoming a member, sir. Thank you. Arsenal fans going mad again, saying they're going to win the league. Look, we're all supposed to be deluded, Alex, as football fans. You know, we should be starting every season, whether you support Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal, whoever it is. You should be expecting and hoping for your team to win the league. But we do know that a certain fan base there does get a little bit carried away with things every season. But you're supposed to be a bit mad as a football fan. Rory said, amazing gesture for Manchester United, a big loss for United Portuguese lads. Yep, absolutely, mate. It was no doubt a difficult moment for all of those Portuguese lads as well. We've seen Pedro Neto as well, respecting Liverpool's lost star, and of course his brother Andre. Yeah, look, I don't know about everybody else, but yesterday for me, that game against Preston felt like the start of the healing process properly for Liverpool Football Club and the fans. And again, I want to say a huge thank you for Preston to the way they went about it all yesterday. I thought it was impeccable. Right. Michael Dunstan said, we must say thank you to all the football fans for the tributes to Diogo and Andre. Yeah, it's, football does come together in these moments, and nothing but respect for all the clubs and their fans for the way they've sent their regards and best wishes towards Diogo. Right, so let's talk Ibrahim Konate. Let's start off with a conversation about Ibu, because loads of different stories today. One outlet in Spain, Defensa Central, reckon that Liverpool are aware of Real Madrid's interest in Konate, and they say, and I must say this is a report in the media, so take it with a pinch of salt, but they say that Liverpool are willing to offer Konate and €35 million or £30 million for Rodrigo. Now, I asked the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp community, would they take this? And overwhelmingly, is 97% or something said yes, they would take that offer if it was one that would be workable for Madrid. But as the evening has gone on, well, more and more stories have started to come out. This one here said, Liverpool have made it clear to Madrid that they won't accept anything less than £45 million for Ibrahim Konate this summer. That's according to AS. But just as we were going live, some more stories were starting to come out about Konate. So Fabrizio Romano, I believe speaking with DAZN, was talking about the situation, and he said Real Madrid are working on a deal to sign Ibrahim Konate on a free transfer in 2026. Now look, I can't be the only person here who wonders how that isn't tapping up. How is it Real Madrid can openly talk about working on deals for other clubs' players when they're still under contract? Now, if this was in January, fair enough, he'd be in the last 6 months of his contract and there'd be no issues with that. Players in the last 6 months of their contracts are free to talk to clubs outside of the league that they play in. But how is it Madrid can just do this again with impunity? And I hope that Liverpool make an example out of Konate in this situation. And look, before anybody jumps down my throat, I'm not willing to play the pretendy stuff like we did with Trent again. I'm not willing to sit here and say that Konate is being quiet out of respect for the club, the same way we all had to pretend with Trent. If Konate really doesn't want to sign a new deal, and there is a report tonight that said he's communicated to Liverpool that he has no interest, that the contract talks have stalled completely, if that's the case, well then I'm sorry, but the niceties need to go out the window. And that's my take on it. I'm not for moving on it, but of course I respect other people's opinions. But for me, we have to either make it very clear to Konate that he's not leaving on a free and act accordingly. And let's not pretend here. If these are all bullshit, well, we've already seen Konate be willing to go out and say that media reports have been bullshit. So if once again our football club is getting rinsed in the media, as it is now, about Konate's situation, I'm sorry, but somebody needs to speak up here. And if the player is going to stay silent on it, I'm not willing to pretend that he's staying silent because he's being respectful. I already had to make that pretend with Trent when we all knew damn well what Trent was doing. So for me, if Konate wants out, off you go. Simple as that. This football club right now is in a moment unprecedented in my adult lifetime where we can look at our club and think we are there or thereabouts for all the major honours. And if Konate doesn't want to be a part of that, no problem. It's his career, it's his decision. But I don't have to pretend that he wants to stay. I don't have to pretend that he's trying to be respectful to the club, because I'm fucking sick of that, to be honest with you. I want players who want to be here and play for the badge. Hearing Georgi Marmadashvili talking about what a big occasion it was for him, his family and the whole country of Georgia for him to join. Seeing Florian Wirtz turning down offers from far and wide to come and play for Arne Slot and Liverpool Football Club. That is what we need. That is what I want as a fan. So look, I'm going to hand it over to you guys now and let you have your say on it. Right, let's talk. Who's his agent? Off the top of my head, I don't know who Konate's agent is. I don't. But it doesn't really matter to me either, to be fair. Mahmood said Konate can F off. Let's not pretend. Look, I understand that there are going to be people who are either in disagreement with me that Konate might want to leave, or there may be people as well who are happy for Konate to play for another year and leave for free. No problem. But my stance on that is, as a fan, I don't want to see our football club allow a player to walk out the door for free. And I don't think that there's the same sentiment with the fan base that Trent had. So people looked at Trent and thought, he's a Scouser. He's been 20 years at the club. So they were being more respectful. And it was a bigger loss to us than Konate, in my opinion, who was a good defender and one that I'm happy having at the club. But let's not pretend that he's the be-all and end-all here. He is no Virgil. He is no Mo. He is no Alisson. So for me, if he wants to go to Madrid, then you best hope that you can sort it out this summer, because I don't want anybody at our club who doesn't want to be here. And I don't want another season of having to read about Konate and Madrid for the whole season. So if Madrid want them, sort it out this summer, or Liverpool have to make an example out of Konate. That's my heartfelt, honest opinion, because he is somebody I think that we could make the stance on, because Real Madrid are taking the piss. And if they're openly talking with our players now, we can't be having it. We just can't. Jonathan said, I 100% agree with you, Craig, on that one. Tanya said he can walk alone. Rather we use Konate to try get Rodrigo just so we solve a headache. So would I, Shane. I'd love that, mate. You know, if there was... But what I can say to you is I don't know 100% that Liverpool are interested in Rodrigo. You know, I love the idea of it as a fan, but I don't know if it's based on any level of reality or not, or if Madrid's media are trying to solve a headache like Rodrigo by linking us to the player. I really don't know one way or the other whether we're interested in Rodrigo or not. But the hypothetical you're talking about, mate, I'd be more than happy with that. Mark said, I think he has the same agent as Liam Delap. We're not going to have another season with another player running down his deal to get what Konate and then needs to go. Exactly. So we all had to sit through Trent and say, well, let's be respectful. Trent's being respectful to the club. He's not talking in the media. That could mean anything. Come on. Let's not fall into that trap again. Konate was more than willing to come out and say to the media that the talk of him being close to an agreement back in October, November was bullshit. His words. He said it. So he's willing to talk to the media and say what's bullshit. So if there's no truth to this, Konate should have no problem coming out into the media and saying that these links to Madrid are untrue. Would we agree with that? Right, let's drop into the chat again. So much news to get through tonight, by the way, folks. So many stories. We're going to be talking Ekitike. We're going to be talking Newcastle. We're going to be talking over and over. I don't know what this is. Mom, stop saying the same thing over and over again, man. It's annoying. I don't know what the hell you're saying, Billy. I've no idea. I'm going to need more context, mate. If you're talking at me, I'll say whatever I want, bro. Simple as that. I'll say how many times I want as well. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt here while I wait for your secondary comment, but like, remember what I've said all the way through, mate. Respect's a minimum on here, and it's not difficult to show it. Right, let's get into the chat and see how everyone's feeling. 43 million is a joke when the invoicing costs 50. Again, I think you're missing a huge bit of the context there, my friend. The reason Huijsen cost 50 is, one, that was his release clause, and two, he had a longer contract. Konate only has 1 year to go. Oh, there's some dude in the chat. Sorry, I just didn't know from what you'd said, Billy, with Mome. I didn't know if you were trying to say, man, stop saying the same thing. So cool, my man. I understand the spamming in the chat being annoying. The system that I'm looking at your comment on doesn't show me that, my man. So thank you for clearing that up. Really appreciate you. Right. Yeah, so the reason Dean Howson was 50, as I mentioned, is because, one, he's got a longer contract, and two, that was his release clause. So Konate with 1 year to go isn't... You're not going to see the full market value. You know, if Konate had 3 years to go on his deal now, then I'd be sitting here agreeing with you fully. He'd be a £60 million defender in my mind if he had a longer contract. Lewis, sorry, there we go, said, sell Konate, unsettle Arsenal with a 100 million bid for Saliba. I bet his head could be turned. He's too good to finish second every season. I love your thinking, Lewis. I love it, mate. I've often said this before. I don't think we shithouse clubs enough. And as much as I don't think there's a world where that would happen, I mean, I love the thought process, Lewis. I love the thought process. LFC chose to not extend Konate sooner. No, they didn't. They didn't, though, mate. And look, let me make this really clear to anybody who's in the chat, particularly people who maybe I don't know, like I would the members and a few others. At no point here Are we going to allow our football club to be rinsed by people in the chat or by anybody else? Liverpool have been trying to renew Konate's contract. But what we know for a fact is something has changed since October, November time. So Liverpool, to be fair, had a couple of things to deal with over the last year. The Jurgen situation, and then obviously the Trent, the Virgil and Mo situation. They all had to be dealt with. So let's not get into this trying to fucking belittle our club crap, because that needs to be called out for what it is. Nonsense. Liverpool have been trying to renew. But if the player won't sign, he won't sign. And I don't want my football club going out there and paying, how do I put this, over the top wages for a player just to get an extension. He either wants to stay or he doesn't. If he doesn't want to stay, off you pop, best of luck. What's your Mateta vid earlier? As your stance based more on age or profile, I think he could do a great job and another striker to emerge. I think probably more age, Nick, to be honest with you. Like, could I see a world where there's an argument for Mateta being maybe good enough? I mean, I'd struggle, but if the underlying data showed something that with the eye test, doesn't quite see, I'd be open to that. But you throw in 28 on top of that as the age profile, and it just feels very unlikely to me that it would be something that Liverpool had looked at. But if people are wondering why we're talking about that, let me just explain where that story comes from, because I think it's only fair we give some context. Right, so there's a report that Anfield Talk posted crediting at Sebnonda, Sebnonda, that said Jean-Philippe Mateta and his representatives met with Liverpool in Paris in the last few days. What do we think of that? Is that an interesting one to people, or do they think no? So also we got to look at Crystal Palace's situation now. So they've just had the tough luck or hard luck about the Europa League. They're maybe going to lose Eze. They've just lost Elise previously. Mark Gay probably going to move on. I don't see a world where Glasner and Palace are going to want to lose their striker as well. You know, he's certainly a far better option than Eddie Nketiah, so I just don't see a world where it would be a viable deal financially for Liverpool to make sense. If you're taking a punt, on him at a decent price, fair enough, but I don't think there would be a decent price there. Lewis said, if you remember in yesterday's stream, I said Mateta. Look, Mateta's an interesting curveball as a topic to discuss, I think. I just would struggle, personally, to see Liverpool going for a 28-year-old. But, again, I'll back that up by saying I don't know who the striker target is, as I've said all the way through. So, let me start a poll about Mateta and ask what people think of Mateta. So, would you be happy with Mateta? So, for me, I'll kick it off by saying I wouldn't. I'd be underwhelmed, to be honest with you, with Mateta. I would. I'd nearly go as far as to say I'd keep Darwin over Mateta. And that's saying a lot, right? Because you know my thoughts on Darwin's future at the club. So, I guess I'm going to segue in to the striker conversation now. And let's start off with Darwin as I brought him up. So, reports today have suggested a few things. Sky Sports, who are about 2 days behind the rest of the world, are still reporting that Napoli have ended their interest in Darwin, which I don't believe to be true. I believe that they're still negotiating with Liverpool, and the report today suggested that there's a €5 million difference in the valuation that Liverpool hold for Darwin Nunez and the numbers that Napoli are offering. And Romano said this today: Darwin Nunez has important opportunities in Saudi Arabia, so it's clear he can't wait forever for Napoli. So remember what I said yesterday. I said no matter what way you are on Darwin, whether you're I think he can still come good or not, I told you he's going to be sold. And I said anybody preparing themselves for the possibility of Darwin staying is going to end up hurt because he is not going to stay. Liverpool know that there are opportunities in Saudi, but what we didn't know was whether they were going to be of any interest or not. Now, Romano's tone and wording here, to me, suggests that he is open to the idea, or he wouldn't be calling them important opportunities, and he can't wait for Napoli forever. So I think we're at the point now where Napoli have bluffed themselves into a corner where they can talk about having the opportunity to sign this kid from Udinese, but we know they want Darwin. They know they want Darwin, and they spent a lot of time talking with Darwin, so let's wait and see what happens. If I'm Napoli, I'm paying the extra €5 million at this point. But let's wait and see. But either way, I hope that people will start to see now there is no future for Darwin at the club. It's just, regardless of what you think of me and my take on it, it's just not going to happen. This one from Lewis said, goal against Arsenal won me over. Drogba regen. Look, Mateta has something about him. He has a bit of magic in him, and he's a big, powerful guy. But I can't help but think back to the Christian Benteke days, and a similar kind of situation where I'm capable of good stuff, but consistency just not there for me. So yeah, I'd be amazed if we're really interested in Mateta. But as a secondary option, and that's something that none of us have really mentioned here. So let's speak about the unspoken elephant in the room for a second. If there is an insurance policy for what happened with Darwin for the club, or excuse me, what happened with Diogo for the club, if there is an insurance policy there, well then maybe there's a world where we feel like we have to have that secondary option as well. And if Mateta was the secondary option, I'd be a bit more calm about it. Like I would have been with João Pedro, who I came on here and said the same thing. I would have happily taken João Pedro at Liverpool for a far more reasonable fee than we'd probably have to pay for ISAK and as a backup. But it didn't happen. He's a Chelsea player. Ricky said, I think we need a buyback clause for Doak, excuse me, I'm still trying to get that one right. So, Philly Reds, I don't know if you're watching, if you're in the background, sir. I got your email late last night. I don't have a chance to reply to as many these days, unfortunately. So if you're watching this, I just want to say, for any snarkiness on my behalf yesterday, my friend, I know you're a viewer of the channel for a good while, and I respect you, so I apologise to you if you felt like I was rude to you yesterday. Yesterday was a tough day for me, as I mentioned, with my ear and all, but that doesn't matter. If I was rude to you, I apologise. So, Eddie. Right, the thing is, Craig, they'll need to hurry up and make a decision. We can't wait around forever. All the strikers are going. Well, let me pose that a different way. Do you think that the club don't know that? And again, Eddie, sorry, mate. I love you, bro. Don't mean that to sound snarky, but, let's be honest here. We're fans. The club will know. The club will know. Yeah, so the club will know that the clock's ticking and they're under the gun. They'll know. So if there's one thing I do have faith in, it's that when we need to get players and the money's there, because that's always been my issue, right, that the money wasn't available, more often than not, they'll get the right decision. So I keep trying to say to people, I don't think we're going to leave ourselves short in any area, even though at the moment, of course, there's a good conversation about leaving ourselves short at centre-back. Somebody just gifted 50. S4T, sorry, thank you, man. 50 gifted memberships, absolute legend. Thank you so much. We ain't getting ISAK, stop gassing it for no reason. Right. Firstly, you don't know that for a fact, right? YL. I don't know you from Adam, but you don't know that for a fact. Nor do I know that you're wrong. But please stop trying to belittle other people in my community over a disagreement you might have over a stance or a possibility of something. Because I dare say, sir, if I said to you 3 months ago we'd signed Wirtz, both of us would sit here and say, Nah, that's not going to happen. So just tone it down a bit is all I'm asking. A bit of respect to the people in the chat who are allowed to dream and have opinions. So this is where I'm at with ISAK. It looks like Newcastle are pushing to sign this player. So my brain, and I'm not saying this is right, this is just a stance. My brain says, right, Hughes and Eddie Howe are good mates. They played together at Bournemouth. They're good mates. Liverpool are watching as Newcastle today are in deep negotiations. So just to let you know how deep these negotiations are, Julian Laurence, who is a very esteemed journalist, said super agent Ali Barat is currently in Newcastle to finalise the Hugo Ekitike deal. Around 80 million euro for the French striker from Frankfurt who has a great last season in the Bundesliga. So just hear me out. So we've got Hughes and Howe being mates. We've got Liverpool badly needing a striker. Ekitike being one of the strikers that Liverpool have been linked to. Now, do you think that if he's the one we want, we're going to sit back and watch Newcastle sign him? And to flip it a bit more, from Newcastle's perspective, if they sell us ISAK before they do anything, the whole world knows they have a big pot of money. But if they continue with the stance that isn't for sale, it gives them a better leverage to negotiate when they're trying to buy a player like Ekitike. That's where I'm at. I'm not saying it's going to end in ISAK, but I'm trying to look at the reasons why Liverpool are just sitting back and doing nothing. And it isn't because the lads involved aren't good at their jobs. That's my take on it. Whether it means we end up with ISAK or not, I don't know. But it either means, to me, it either means one or two things. Either Liverpool feel we can get ISAK, or Ekitike was never our target. Has to be one of those two, in my opinion. Markovic said, I'd go for Vlahovic over Mateta as second choice. No. Do you know what? I haven't really watched much of Vlahovic since he's been at Juventus. I watched more of him at Fiorentina. And it looks like he's leaving Juventus this summer. I think AC Milan, if I'm not mistaken, are looking at him, who, by the way, signed Luka Modric today. So I don't know, mate. But the only way I can really justify the idea of Mateta in my head is as a potential backup. I just couldn't see him being the guy. And right, let's talk more about the Newcastle stuff. So David Ornstein has said Eddie Howe would keep Ekitike and ISAK, right? But he went on to say, plus Gordon, Barnes and Elanga. How would he keep them happy? Ornstein said it's unclear. And also, it will stretch Newcastle from a PSR perspective. So look at it this way. Newcastle, if I'm to believe this, they'll sign Ekitike for 80 million euro. They've signed Elanga for 50-something million pound. They have signed Trafford, or are signing Trafford as a goalkeeper. They need a centre-back. And all of a sudden, they're going to just be able to spend all that money without selling anyone. They have to sell someone. Now, whether that somebody is ISAK, Gordon, Barnes, who knows? Or Murphy. But if you want to bring in some money to help your rebuild, the most likely outcome there is a big sale. So, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it. Liverpool aren't stupid, and we're not going to let Ekitike go elsewhere without a plan. We just won't. You know, for all my moaning over the years about signings and stuff, we know this is somewhere where there's money there. And yes, ideally, Liverpool would want to sell Darwin Nunez before going out to get a replacement. But they wouldn't lose the replacement. Remember what happened with Luis Diaz? Spurs moved for him. And we had initially planned to go get him in the summer, but Spurs made a move for the Porto player at the time in January. And what do we do? Like that. Edwards on a plane, or whoever was the sporting director back then. My memory can't let me know if it was him or if it was Julian Ward or somebody else. But deal done straight away. Over, get it. He was our guy. We're not losing our target. And with Wirtz, we paid what it took to get the target. So I just have to feel that there's a plan here somewhere. Right, some more super chats I need to catch up on. That one, that one, that one. We've done that one. Have we done Eddie's one? Yeah, we need done that one. This one from Lewis said, we never had Salah, Verts, Gyökeres with Benteke. Well, Gackers. I read that as Gyökeres, sorry. We never had Salah, Verts. Yeah, but again, you might as well keep Darwin than sign Mateta, in my mind anyway. I'd go for Vlahovic over Mateta as second choice, said Markovic. Lewis again said, win nothing and Man United go down, or win the cup treble, including Champions League, and Man United win the league this season. Never happening, they're dreadful, but bit of fun. I've no interest in United getting relegated. It doesn't change my life in a positive way. So whatever has us winning trophies is the option I go for. You know, I'm looking solely for Liverpool to do well, so that would be my my angle. Zoidberg, how are we, dude? Said, yo, Craig, I'm on a hike and not up to date. Any truth links to the Slovenian Darwin? I think you mean Sheshko. Also, what say you to a 2026 Premier League Champions League victory celebration in Boston? What I say is that America don't want me in the country. They took me off the visa waiver program for one wrong click box, so I'll never be going to America again. Unfortunately, because I love the country, as you know. I've been there many times, but for me to go to America now, I have to go get a 10-year holiday visa, have an interview with the embassy, and I don't want to go to America that much because I looked at the paperwork and I'd be asked less on a mortgage application than they want for me to get a 10-year holiday visa. So, unfortunately, mate, Toronto's probably the nearest I'm going to get. Right, so let's check in on our poll where we said, would you be happy with Mateta? 2,200 votes, 68% of you guys and girls said no, and look, I'd be in that camp as well for what it's worth. Right, Heavy Metal D said, evening, Craig, hope that you're doing well. It may have already been asked, but what was your take on the aftermath of the Chelsea versus PSG? Do you know, I still haven't seen it. I know that sounds a bit far-fetched, but I haven't seen what happened after the game at all. So yeah, I don't know. But I tell you, there was one thing I did want to talk about because I think this is funny, to say the least. So Levi Colwill, after Chelsea won the Club World Cup, said this. I've just won the Club World Cup. In the future, I think this will be the biggest trophy of all. It will be bigger than the Champions League, and we were the first team to win it. Agree or disagree? Look, I'm not belittling Chelsea winning it. Fair play to them. They beat a good PSG team. They won it. But in no way, in my mind, will that competition ever come near the Champions League for prestige or for fan interest. I don't see it. Now, was the Club World Cup maybe a little bit more interesting than I initially thought? Perhaps a little bit. But no way am I having that. That you say to a player right now, you can win a Club World Cup this year or you can win a Champions League. I'm sorry, I'm having the Champions League every day of the week, and I think most football fans would agree with that. While we're talking about FIFA, actually, really quickly, they broke their own rules. The halftime show yesterday was 24 minutes long, and IFAB, who are the football lawmakers, their own rules say that law number 7 from IFAB says the halftime must not exceed 15 minutes. So FIFA are breaking their own rules for a competition. Again, it's funny, isn't it? How rules matter until they don't matter. Right, let's get back into some more comments anyway. Let's talk about the Newcastle player that you don't want me to talk about, because Ben Jacobs has reported a little bit today. So let's talk about Anthony Gordon. Newcastle United winger Anthony Gordon has been linked with a potential move to Liverpool, writes Ben Jacobs. How are we feeling out there, folks? Because you know my take on Gordon. I can understand it. Wouldn't be my first left-wing choice, but I could always say to you guys, I understand it. But I want to know how you're feeling about it. If we end up with Anthony Gordon, let's say to replace Lucho, how are you feeling? I think, look, I'm not going to disrespect your answer, because I understand, sincerely, I understand why people might go, not sure. I do. I get it. I understand it. I just think there are a few plus points, and my final decision as a fan would probably come down to the numbers on this one, because there's a price that I think Anthony Gordon maybe makes some sense at, and then there's a price where we're just deluding ourselves. So yeah, I'm intrigued to see what the number might be. This one from Kean said, FIFA Club World Cup means nothing to me, in my opinion. Look, it's fair play to Chelsea for winning it. You know, they'll have the badge for 4 years. They'll always be the first winners of that new Club World Cup. I'm not trying to belittle their achievement winning it. I just personally massively disagree with Levi Colwill ever thinking it's going to be as big a deal as the Champions League, which they've also won as well, by the way, in the past. So, you know, Chelsea do have Champions Leagues and European Cups in the trophy cabinet, unlike Arsenal. The legend, how are we, said, thoughts on Henderson to Brentford? I mean, it makes sense as a Norgard replacement, experience, leadership. You know, that's something that Henderson does have. For my misgivings and anger about the way he left Liverpool, you'll never hear me say a bad word about him as a captain. I thought Jordan Henderson was an impeccable leader and captain. So, yeah, makes sense to me that they look at him to replace Norgard. Craig, at least Gordon is homegrown. Liverpool fans will know he'll give his all for the jersey. Yeah, he's homegrown. Clearly there's an interest there to some degree, because we nearly signed him last summer. So we know that there's a fondness there on both sides. And I just want to bring you guys back to a conversation we had around João Pedro, where a lot of people had wanted nothing to do with João Pedro. And I came on and I said, I think João Pedro would actually be a good option to have as another attacking option. And I think the price is fair. So obviously he went and signed for Chelsea, and now straight away you're seeing loads of people talking about how we missed out on João Pedro. I think Anthony Gordon, under Arne, under the development of him, playing in front of a fan base and a club that obviously he holds close to his heart, I think there are improvements left to go with Anthony Gordon. So I think I can see why Liverpool will be interested. I'm not trying to say he's the best left winger on the planet, but I can see the sense of it. Again, lots of people get very defensive and angry about this in the chat, but again, ask yourself a question. If the football club are interested in Anthony Gordon, and we are, surely we must admit that they see something that maybe we don't see, or maybe some people in the chat don't see. The club clearly sees something, whether it's in underlying data that we don't have access to, or whether the homegrown aspect carries an extra bit of weight in this conversation. There's something the club are seeing that obviously makes them of interest. And I do trust that the club know that they know the style of players they want to play in the system that Arne wants. And I trust them in that regard. Where have we gone? This one. Anthony, how are we, dude? Thank you for your super chat, my friend. Said, if we buy ISAK, is he a permanent starter or a squad player? Like most of our strikers who come on as a game changer. Oh no, I think, Anthony, if you sign ISAK, you got to play him, because he's going to want golden boots. He's going to want, he's going to want to be banging in a ton of goals and winning stuff. But at the same time, I'd be mindful of the injuries. So one thing I'm very happy about since Arne joined, well, there's many things I'm very happy about, but one of the things is the way that we managed to get through last season, and to a good extent, we were okay with injuries. And that's something that Ruben Peters is renowned for. Him and Arne have very good background in keeping players fit and available. So again, I would have to believe that they think that they could improve the situation with ISAK, or that they have less concerns perhaps around the injuries. But he'd have to play, man. You're not going to drop 100 or 150 million pound on a player and not play them most of the time. Nevin said Mateta, Sesko and Ekitike seem more like shiny new things than upgrades on Nunez. So I can speak to Ekitike. Sesko is a risk. He is a risk. And where I do somewhat agree with you, Nevin, is I think we've tried the risk with Darwin. Right? We rolled the dice there on a player who had all the attributes to maybe justify rolling the dice. But it just hasn't worked out. So he's going to move on. You know, and I know people get angry at me when I keep saying that, but like I keep saying, why would we be letting him talk with Napoli? Why would we be holding so firm on a number? He will be gone. Liverpool have plans to sell. Darwin has plans to move. We're just going to have to come to terms with that, whatever side of this debate we're on. Right. Okay, let's keep going, because there's lots more to get through. So, let's talk Ekitike again. Plettenberg said Newcastle have opened contract talks with the camp of Hugo Ekitike and are trying to reach a verbal agreement now. Talks today. He goes on to say Newcastle are ready to pay the package demanded by Eintracht Frankfurt, but there has been no official negotiations between the clubs yet, no written offers. We believe that that's changed. As Julian Laurent said, super agent Ali Barrett is currently in Newcastle to finalise. Finalise being a key word there. The Ekitike deal. So, let me ask you a question around ISAK that's a little bit different. Okay. 1 second. Okay. Right, so the question I'm going to ask you is, do you think that Newcastle really want both Ekitike and ISAK? Because that's the part that I'm really struggling with on this one. Right, so a report Anfield Sector posted coming from, I believe, Saudi, said Al Hilal are negotiating with Darwin Nunez at Inzaghi's request. So, like Romano mentioned earlier on, important offers from Darwin. So, there's definitely interest in Darwin, like we've said before. Al Hilal now interested. So, Napoli are a little bit shit or get off the pot, as we say here in Ireland. Time to make a decision on that one. You either pay the money or you risk maybe losing them at this point, because the player has spent quite a while talking with Napoli, with Conte, with De Laurentiis. So now it's time for Napoli to either put the money down or do what they keep threatening to do, which is go and sign the guy from Udinese. Where are we? Ryan said Gordon is a decent Diaz replacement if it's no more than 50, 60 million, but can't see Newcastle selling 2 stars. I want ISAK. Oh, look, I agree with you. I think there's one big sale to come at Newcastle. I don't think they're going to get the money from Murphy to justify it being a big sale. So I think if you gave me an option of one of those two, Ryan, I'd 100% agree with you that ISAK could be the one I'd want over Gordon. I don't think Napoli have the cash for Darwin. They do. So they've got the Kavisha Kvaratskhelia money they got in. And then, of course, they're going to sell Victor Osimhen this summer. They've already turned down 75 million euro or 70 million euro from Galatasaray. So money isn't going to be the problem for Napoli spending it. And obviously they will have gotten an agreement on a number with Darwin on the wages, or we wouldn't have proceeded to this point. So money's there. But if they don't think there's value there, that's a different conversation. S4T, how are you, my man? Said, I wouldn't mind Gordon at all. Quality player and homegrown. I prefer Rodrigo, but I'm also a realist. Oh, dude, look, I'm not trying to sit here and say to anybody I would take Gordon over Rodrigo. I wouldn't. I would be with you on that one. I would far rather Rodrigo Goes than Anthony Gordon. But what I don't know is if we have any interest in Rodrigo. That I can't sit here and say as a matter of fact. I can tell you we have an interest in Gordon because, it's been around for a while. This one. I'd rather let Kumas and young Rio play than Gordon. Rio, fair enough. Kumas, no. No. I no, not for me. For me, I think Kumas is a good player, but I wouldn't sell Diaz and just say, yeah, let's play Lewis Kumas. I'm not there yet as a fan personally, but look, I respect your opinion. Right, let's check in some other comments. Simon Oren said Newcastle don't play with two strikers, so somebody's not going to be happy. Can't see both at Newcastle. Stuart Caven said, I believe ISAK will push for a move if Newcastle start playing silly buggers. I agree, mate. I agree with everybody who thinks it's fanciful for Newcastle to look for keep Ekitike and ISAK and Barnes and Gordon and Murphy and Elanga. I just can't see it. Mahmood said, why do people not rate Gordon? I think, look, if I was to sit here and try to say, make an argument for the no to Anthony Gordon, I'd say too lightweight, too much time rolling around on the ground, hasn't exactly set the world on fire at Newcastle. I would imagine they're the arguments against the case for signing Anthony Gordon, and I think they're all valid. I just think there's more to come from Anthony Gordon. And I also think we're lacking a bit of pace up top, and he would help out in that regard. Where was I at? So, I've done that one. I've done that one. That one. This one. Dylan said, Rodrigo is equal priority to ISAK, in my opinion. Top player. So, mate, no argument for me on Rodrigo as somebody I'd like. I just don't know. Look, if you said to me this deal for Konate and £35 million for Rodrigo, if that was a genuine deal that was on the table, I would bite your hand off to take that deal as a Liverpool fan. Because I believe there are plenty of good centre-backs out there in the world that Liverpool can bring in, and I don't think Konate is irreplaceable, and I also like Rodrigo. But what we don't know is, at least to the best of my understanding, maybe there are other outlets or journalists who've said Liverpool are interested in Rodrigo. Do we know that there is a genuine interest in Rodrigo? Has it been mentioned by a top-tier journalist yet? Because, we can have the conversation as fans and play the hypothetical, and look, I'm happy to do it. That's part of the fun of being a fan, but I just don't know. Is there a real bona fide concrete interest there in Rodrigo or not? I just don't know. What about Jamie Vardy? What about him? Oh, come on, mate. Romano said on... No, he didn't. See, that's bullshit. Again, you're lying. Romano didn't say on Facebook. Romano said that AS reported that Liverpool want Rodrigo. Fabrizio Romano, to the best of my understanding, never once came out and said, my information is Liverpool want Rodrigo. He reported that a Spanish paper wanted or claimed Liverpool wanted Rodrigo, but I don't remember once Romano crediting his sources with that. And if I'm wrong on that, I will apologise, but I believe that that's the case. But Jamie Vardy? Come on. Come on. Fuck off. Jamie Vardy, lads. Come on. God almighty. No. Just no, lads. No. I mean, get me Akinfenwa ahead of Vardy at this point now. Yeah. Do you know what though is mad? Honestly, there has been quite a few people who've said Vardy. Like, this isn't just one person in the chat. I've got mates who messaged me going, Craig, what about Vardy? You know, we need it. What about Vardy, Craig? Like 3, 4, 5 years ago, maybe you look at Vardy and think, right, he's a shithouse, but he's a goal scorer in one. Just not now. Not now. I think I'd actually cry if we signed Jamie Vardy now. Yeah, I'd definitely cry. Yeah, I'm gonna cry. Bring in Paul Mullen for the Ballon d'Or. Yeah, I'd probably still rather Paul Mullen at this point, in all honesty. Right. So S4T said, "Do Newcastle want to keep ISAK and Ekitike? Yes, they can afford to. Yes, can they afford to? I doubt it." So the reporting is that the company line from Newcastle is that they want both. But like I said, they're hardly going to say otherwise, are they? So people place too much belief in statements football clubs make. Would you expect Newcastle to go, yeah, we're just trying to get Ekitike in before we sell Isak so nobody knows? You know what I mean? They're going to have to come out and say, yeah, our plan is to keep both of them, and yeah, we might even buy Haaland as well. They have to be like come out and lie. But the difference is we don't have to buy the lie. You know, we football clubs tell us lies every single day of the week because they have to. It's just part of trying to read between those lies and figure out what's true and what isn't. Corbin, thank you, mate, for 4 months with us as a member. Said, do you think Isak would push for the move if bid? I don't know. I'd be just guessing at it. I just struggle to believe that Newcastle think that they can keep both of them. Ekitike and Isak and Gordon and Barnes and Elanga and Murphy and sign Trafford, spend the money on Elanga, spend 40 or 50 million on a top-notch centre-back. I just don't see it. I just don't see them having the wiggle room to be able to do that. David Sweet said, "Hi Craig, how will you feel if Newcastle sign Ekitike and we can't get Isak?" I mean, obviously, mate, I'd be... Well, the answer would have to be, do we get somebody else? So if Newcastle sign Ekitike and we get Isak, and let's say we signed... I don't even know if to put a name out there, but let's say Sesko, just for argument's sake. If Sesko is always the target, no problem. So all I can assume as a Liverpool fan right now is that if we allow Newcastle to have a free run at Hugo Ekitike, I can only surmise that he wasn't their number one target. You know, and let's not forget something here. We've had a whole year to plan for this. So Liverpool have known we're going to need a striker all year. And plans have been worked on. And I just don't see a world where we sit back and let it happen. Because I think there's a precedent to this, like we've mentioned. And that's Luis Diaz. Spurs went to try and sign him from Porto, like I mentioned earlier. And we had to push forward our interest by 6 months to stop Spurs getting the target Liverpool wanted. So I can only imagine if we wanted Isak, or Ekitike, we'd do the same thing. Adam said, what's this about potentially signing 2 strikers? I'm confused. So I'm talking about the hypothetical of we've lost Diogo as well, and if the club have the financial means or there's an insurance policy or something that pays out, well, look, let's be honest, we had 2 strikers and the tragic events of the car crash mean one of those, unfortunately, is no longer with us, and the other one is up for sale. So, in a hypothetical world, 2 strikers, or at least 1 striker and another attacking option, should be a possibility. S4T said, that Vardy comment had me crying from laughter. Vardy, Dominic Calvert-Lewin, and Aubameyang, oh God, are more United targets. What's this one? Yeah, we've already done that one. So look, there's real interest in Darwin heating up now, by the way. So not only the Napoli, but Al Hilal as well. So I feel like I feel like we're going to get that Darwin money that the club value him at. I feel like we'll get that soon. Someone keeps asking me a question that I mean to come back to, so I apologise. You said DKIT Project Hit. Craig, would you take Kerbars? I don't know who that is, mate. Excuse my stupidity. I've never heard of the player. Sorry. That probably makes me look like a fool, but I don't know who he is. Jordan said, can see more outgoings now than incomings. Yeah, there was always going to be outgoings, though. Like, let's be honest. The likes of Kelleher was always going to go. Elliott's probably going to go. We're going to move on in left back. Tyler Morton will probably go. Darwin will go. Yeah, so there's always going to be outgoings. But the key is for the outgoings to not be players that Liverpool don't want or weren't expecting to lose. And that's where I think the Konate situation becomes extra interesting. So we asked, do you think Newcastle really want both Hugo Ekitike and Alexander Isak? 60% of the people that voted said no, they don't. Right, one more question. Okay. Right, so this is just a straightforward yes or no. Do you think Konate wants to leave? We'll start from this place and then we'll work from there. So do you think Ibrahim Konate wants to leave? I'll come back to that in a minute because the answer to that will help me progress the conversation. Ben said, what about Endo next season? Do you think Arna will rate him more highly? I think he's way underused at the minute. I think he's too good to rot on the bench. I think it comes back to the style of play, Ben. If we play Endo, we have to change the way that we play somewhat because he isn't as press resistant as Ryan Gravenberch and can't break lines in the same way. There are obviously good attributes that Endo has that Arna has clearly grown to trust, and whether that's 10-15 minutes to close out a game or maybe a cup game where we can change the way we play a bit. I just don't see a world where he's ever looked at as enough to replace Gravenberch if Gravenberch had a 6-week layoff with an injury. I just don't think Endo's that guy because we'd have to play differently. That's the way I look at it anyway, mate. But I think Endo's accepted that role and seems very happy to fulfill it. And Arna, in turn, seems very happy to keep him. I also want to ask about Beraldo, right? I want to ask you a little bit about Lucas Beraldo because late last night, the news came out that he'd handed in a transfer request at Paris Saint-Germain. So L'Equipe said Lucas Beraldo was handed in a transfer request and PSG have agreed to part ways with the Brazilian centre-back if certain conditions are met. Anything Liverpool say that Liverpool were previously interested in the Brazilian in 2023. Now, look, my only real time paying attention to him was the Club World Cup final where he was shit. He was terrible. But that's not fair judgment for me overall because I don't know. So, what do you guys think on Beraldo? Looking at some of his stats, his dual success rate's shocking. Shocking. Aerial, he's okay. Aerial duels. Progressive passing and stuff, fine. But yeah, his dual success rate's not great. It was lower than Konate and Virgil by a significant amount. But I don't know because I don't watch week in, week out. I haven't seen Beraldo play all that much, so I've no idea if that was just a bad day at the office from yesterday or if he's not very good. Jason said, Craig, if we sign ISAK for 106 to 126 million, plus Elliot, Konate plus 40 million Rodrigo swap, we get Gay and Haddo. That's our summer. Mate, that is a summer that will have me doing chubby cartwheels on the ground. I'd sign up for that summer right now. Yep, that would be brilliant. I'd take that every day of the week, Jason. Will said, I think he meant Kubarsi, the centre back from Barca. Look, the plan was for Liverpool to look at a young centre back before Konate situation. So if Ibrahim Konate signed a new contract tomorrow, I would be almost certain you see Liverpool sign a young centre back of the ilk of Haddo or the kid from Parma, somebody of that age. But I think with the uncertainty, well, maybe it's becoming a bit more certain now, what's going to happen with Konate, Liverpool have potentially had to pivot here and keep an eye on the Mark Gay situation because he could fulfill the experience role. That's the way I see it. But yeah, that's why I said I want to know what you think Konate wants to do before I move on the conversation, because I want to just get the flavour of how everyone's feeling. So if you haven't voted yet, we're asking, do you think Konate wants to leave Liverpool Football Club? Yes or no? Jordan said, can see us getting our least preferred targets from here on. I don't, mate. And look, this I know is ironic coming from me, somebody who's sat here and called out the ownership group a lot. But the money's there this summer. It is. It's been clear to see the money's there this summer. And I don't think we're going to start deviating away. I think we have a plan, and I truly trust that we won't be disappointed by the end of the window. And that takes a lot for me to say that because, like I said, I've been a critic of the owners and the lack of spending for a long time. But speaking to people that I know, speaking to journalists, looking at what's happening, I think the only reason why we've paused a bit was the tragic events with Diogo and Andre. And I think obviously everybody needed to allow this grieving process to happen, and that's put a pause somewhat on things. But I think you're going to see things start to get back around now. I just don't think we're going to be shopping in second best. I think we have a plan. We might not be able to see the plan as of yet, right? And that's fair to say. We're kind of almost going with hope here as well. There's a lot of faith being put in the plan, but there has to be one because, what these guys aren't is idiots. They are intelligent people who so far have played a blinder in the market, so in this window. So honestly, I know it's ironic, but I do have faith that we will do the right thing and we will get the ones they want. Right, where are we at? This one. The Wild 8 said, did you see the Mateta news? Yeah, I seen it. I just don't know if I believe it, to be honest with you. 28 years of age. Palace about to maybe lose Eze. Probably lose Mark Gay. I think the number it would take would be ridiculous, and it wouldn't justify the idea of it to me, mate. I can't see it being right. Do you think Rio gets a chance next season? It depends what you think a chance is. Do I think he can play 15 games next season? Yes. I think he can get 15 appearances. And that's probably okay. Because if I'm Arna, I want him with me. I want to be overseeing his development. I want to be watching him train alongside Mohamed Salah and Gakpo and the rest of the lads. I want to watch and see his development and know when he's right to go in. And often with young players who are huge talents like him, you'll see them in and out. So they'll get a little taste, they'll be pulled back out. But even if this season is those 10 or 15 appearances, travelling with the first team all the time, training with the first team, being part of the experience, travelling to Champions League games, that's okay. That's good, solid development of the player. So yeah, I think Rio will get his chances. They might not be as much as some would like, but I definitely trust the progression for young Rio. I definitely do. Lolly, how are we, dude? Said everything might change depending on the impact of Wirtz or not. I again think that Liverpool don't deal in hypotheticals. The way that these guys operate, there will be a plan, and the plan will have X, Y, and Z, all the parts to it. And Wirtz is a huge part of that plan, but I just don't think there's going to be any changing now around the targets. Unless the one thing I think maybe Liverpool, I think the Konate situation might have thrown us a small bit this summer. That's the only thing I really think that has surprised us, because all the other players we're talking about here, even Diaz, like, it's no news to any of us that Diaz has been of interest in the very least to Barca and others. We've known that for a while. So the club will have had the possibility of this in the back of their mind. So yeah, I just don't think, mate, we're at that point of guessing. I just don't. Cool. Nearly there on that. Right, S4T, thank you again, my friend, by the way. Incredibly generous. Everyone, please smash the like button and show the love and appreciation that Craig deserves. Mate, you're so kind. And the time he gives to do all the research and share his insights, even though we won't always agree. We do appreciate you. Man, that's so nice of you. Thank you. Look, I do. I put in a lot of research and a lot of effort, as does Connor and the rest of the guys, to put the shows together every day. But in all honesty, it doesn't feel like work, because I do this anyway because I'm a Liverpool fan, and I want to know as much as I can about the club. I just hope that sometimes the insights that I have from playing at a decent level and maybe trying to at least explain what I'm seeing and my thought process. But look, thank you. I appreciate all of you. I really do. Right, let's get to this. So we're getting there. You all keep voting, nearly there. We're less than 100 to go to get to the 2000 Konate. And then I want to move on with the Konate conversation, because I wanted to see what way you were feeling. And the question, if you haven't voted yet, is: do you think Konate wants to leave? Yes or no? It's a landslide answer, by the way. So I always say I'm happy that this is the answer, but I'm happy with how many realists there seems to be in the chat. ISAK defo staying at Newcastle. I mean, look, I don't know that anybody, Kevin, echoes, mate, either me on this side of it or somebody I don't know if anybody can say with any degree of certainty that ISAK is doing anything. Really, I think that's the honest answer here. I can't tell you he isn't staying, and I don't think anybody can say without any doubt whatsoever that he is staying. I think that's the honest answer. Right, so 87% of people who voted, of the 2,000 plus people, said that Konate wants to leave. That's the opinion. So that's also my opinion, for what it's worth. So right, now, what do we do is the next part of this. And for me, ladies and gents, it's time to start making an example out of players. And I know that this kind of goes against a lot of what people would think in an ideal world. But football's a business. Football's ruthless. And nobody gives a fuck about screwing us over. Madrid aren't caring. So my point here now is if Liverpool know that Konate wants to go, then it's time to make an example out of him and Real Madrid and play hardball here. As in, you get sold this summer on our terms, or you get splinters in your arse and you're training with the 21s. Because something has to change. The Trent situation, I hope, will open up people's eyes to this naivety. I want to use the word naivety because I don't want to belittle people, but the naivety around the keeping quiet, being respectful stuff. It's nonsense. Like I mentioned, Konate has already set a precedent where he's told the media that the stuff that said he was close to a contract agreement was a lie. It was bullshit. He said it. So he's already set the precedent that he's willing to talk about the contract situation. So if all these links to Madrid are untrue, there is absolutely no reason that Ibrahima Konate cannot front up, post, say something to say, this is untrue. I'm still negotiating with Liverpool. We hope to reach an agreement. But again, we're not seeing that. We're not seeing that. So I don't have the patience to pretend, because we pretended, or at least we had to pretend with Trent, when I knew, deep down you knew, and everybody knew that Trent was rinsing us and was going to Madrid. But we had to pretend that Trent was being respectful by not talking about the situation. We all had to pretend. Trent was a local boy, 20 years at the club. If you're going to try and pretend for anyone, let it be someone like that. Konate ain't that guy. So for me, you don't want to be here. You're going this summer. End of conversation. That's how difficult I think we need to play this with him. And with Madrid. That's my take on it. I'm not for moving until I hear from Konate otherwise. For me, the club's more important. Sidat said, any updates on the Gay deal? Nothing that I know of, mate, no. Yeah, I wish I had, because I tell you what, mate, we need a centre-back, right? So I wish I had something on it, but I don't know, mate, what's going on with Mark Gay. Thanks to you and your team for all the hard work you do behind the scenes. Seriously though, what club would sign a player for 80 million to be a backup? I struggle to believe it. Like I've said, Newcastle are perfectly entitled to say whatever they want in public. And like I've said, I've given you my thought process behind why I think we're just sitting back and watching this happen. I can't but believe that they think that there's a chance here to do something. Damien said, we need 2 centre-backs, Craig. 3 if Konate leaves, in my humble opinion. Look, I've thought about this quite a bit, Damien, and initially I was the same as you, mate. I thought, even if Konate stays, we need 2. But I'm willing to give Nalo the benefit of the doubt to be the 5th choice centre-back for a season, particularly if it means Liverpool have to go out and sign 2 in this window, Konate replacement and Kwanzaa. I'm willing to give Nalo that space, and also know that Endo and Stevenson as a potential can play there. But in an ideal world, being greedy, yeah, I get where you're coming from totally. I just think 2 would be good right now. Dayan said, hey Craig, still think we need 2 centre-backs, defensive mid and a striker. We need that sorted quick. Much love all the way from Australia. I don't disagree. I think I'm unsure about the defensive mid because I don't know what way Arna's thinking about Bajcetic and McConnell. There's been a load of reports to say Arna's been very impressed with James McConnell. And to be honest, every time I see James McConnell, I'm impressed. But whether he feels if we buy somebody, it's blocking the pathway for one of those guys or not, it's a tough balancing act, isn't it? Between blocking the pathway and are they ready for the here and now? So I understand where you're coming from. But for me, it's centre-backs and forwards. Right now, 2 centre-backs, 2 forwards. If Diaz leaves, 2 centre-backs, 3 forwards. That's what I think we need. And also, I think we as fans need some clarity over Chiesa and what's going to happen there. Yeah, is he staying? If he's staying, cool. But then, again, Romano saying he wants to move back to Italy, so I don't know. Have you seen the controversy around Yamal's birthday? Nope. What was it? I've no idea what happened, but yeah. No, sorry, man. This is probably the boomer in me coming out, but yeah, I don't know what happened there. Gary Jacob, Matt Hardy Sports said, sources at Newcastle insist that if Ekitike is signed, it would not mean that Alexander ISAK would definitely leave this summer. But the Frenchman's arrival would clearly have significant financial implications for a club who only narrowly avoided a PSR points penalty last season. Liverpool are known to be admirers of ISAK. So again, the club will of course have to say these things, Newcastle, because they're hardly going to come out and tell Frankfurt that they're going to be getting a load of dough for ISAK. So, we've got loads of money. They're going to have to play the whole, no, we want both of them. Yeah. But I just don't believe it. It's a World Cup year, so we can make Konate not play. Exactly. Like, at the best of times, Konate's touch and go whether he starts for France. Throw in the fact that you won't be playing this season if you stay at Liverpool to run down your contract. Yeah, absolutely we need to lean into that and say, you want to go to the World Cup with Didier Deschamps, then you need to play football, fella. And if you force the issue with us and try to run down your contract to leave for free, then you ain't going to be playing football. So in theory, no World Cup for you. And I don't care, because if he's made his mind up and him and Real Madrid have hatched this plan, why should we care? We need to look after our own interests. What's your thoughts on Nallo for fourth choice? No, not for fourth. Fifth, yes, but not for fourth. No way. No, I couldn't, because Gomez is injury prone. So we have to take that into account. So in that scenario, there's a world where we have Virgil, either Konate or his replacement, and Nallo. No, not for me. I think. No one player is bigger than the club, especially not Konate. Respectfully, like, Konate's a good player, but he's not a great player. Konate is part of a good partnership with Virgil, but he's not the important part of that partnership. For me, Konate is a player who is replaceable, no problem. Ideally, I'd like not to have to replace him because he's been a Liverpool player and I enjoy watching him play for Liverpool. But I'm not going to lose a minute's sleep if he goes. Not for a second. So I agree, Eddie, no one is bigger than the club. Especially not somebody who's very good but not world class. Apparently hired dwarfs for entertainment. So I don't know where I sit on that debate, right? Because let's say these small people, because I don't know the politically correct term, are happy to make money from their situation. Who the fuck am I to judge them? I think at times everybody wants to rush to criticize everyone. And if these men and women are making a living and are happy, why should I belittle somebody else who's being entertained by people? It's one of them weird ones. It's almost like we feel that we have to look out for these people because they're incapable of looking out for themselves when they very much are not. So I don't see the problem with it if they have no problem with it. Who the fuck am I to tell them what they can and can't do? So yeah, weird one. But there's always somebody. Stop it, Elmer. Good joke, mate, but stop it. Yeah, who am I to tell what to do? Elmer said, Konate is a situation I would cut my nose to spite my face with. Let him rot on the bench. These guys going for free. Snakes. I'm fed up with it. So I don't want to call him a snake either, because it's his career and he's entitled to do whatever he wants to do. Like I always said about Trent. Trent was entitled to run down his contract. Doesn't mean I have to like it though. And Konate's entitled to want to run down his deal and go to Madrid, but it doesn't mean Liverpool has to like it. And it doesn't mean we have to play nice for a year while he runs down his contract and leaves. And I don't think there's the same level of connection to the fan base that Trent would have had as a Scouser. You know, Trent was a very, very unique situation where we've got this local lad who was 20 years at our club, who, whatever we thought of him, at times we knew he was a Scouser through and through. Konate doesn't have that. He's a player who we brought in who people like and has done well, but he's not the one you're going to die on that hill for, right? You know, you're not going to. No, he can be made an example of, in my opinion, if the case necessitates it. And I have to say, like I've said, I know a lot of the time we deal in hypotheticals as football fans, but this situation is really easy for Konate to clear up if it's not true. You know, happy to tell us that the reports of being close to a deal were wrong, right? Happy to say that, which he's entitled to. So if the stuff that's been printed about Madrid is wrong, then why wouldn't he come out and say that? Because he's the one that's going to be getting grief on socials over it. He's the one seeing people like me sitting here talking about it. So you can put an end to all of it like that. But you choose not to. Why? Why? It's either because there's truth to it, or because you want the big gotcha moment where you sign a new deal. I don't know. And I know maybe you say, well, this is negotiating tactic from his side, but it's getting to the point now where Liverpool have pretty much made their stance clear on what the contract offer is, and threatening us with Real Madrid isn't going to really strengthen your hand very much there. So yeah, I just don't see it. He's not doing any press releases though. Yeah, again, that's the problem. Remember, we had to pretend for a year that Trent was being respectful to the club by not saying that in the media and giving it all this when he scored. We had to all pretend that when anybody with a brain cell knew differently that Trent was rinsing us. So Konate has done media where he has said that those reports of him being close to an agreement from the likes of Ornstein, Joyce and Romano were all, in his words, bullshit. So he's not afraid to stand up and speak in the media when he wants a narrative to be addressed. So I don't buy into staying silent being anything other than an indication that you want out. That's the way I look at it. Is wrestling popular in Ireland? Yes. Yeah. You mean like WWE wrestling? Yes. I mean, I was a huge fan growing up. Probably my mid-20s, life got in the way and I wasn't able to keep up as much. But yeah, I went to loads of WWF back in the day, shows and stuff. Yeah, I would have loved it. Loved it, man. I used to beat the shit out of my mum and dad when I was a kid, jumping off the sofas for, tried to get my dad in figure four leg locks and stuff. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Wrestling. Sorry if my accent didn't pronounce that correctly. Wrestling, like WWE. Craig, have you seen the dwarf comedian Brad Williams? I think I know which guy you're on about. I think I do. Craig going off the couch or jumping off the couch for this swanton bomb. Oh, honestly, mate, my parents must have had the patience of a saint because honestly, I'm not joking. I was everything as a kid, jumping off the sofa, trying everything, belly splashes, 5-star frog splash. I mean, the only thing I wasn't trying was obviously somersaults onto the Marathon. But yeah, I used to try out loads of wrestling moves on my dad and stuff when I was a kid. Itachi said, if we get Gay, Rodrigo and ISAK after Verts, Kirkas and Frimpong, this will be the best transfer window ever. Oh, mate, yeah. Absolute agreement. It would be like, don't even bother showing up against us kind of transfer window. You're wasting your time. I agree. It'd be incredible. Right, more comments. Konate is very good, but we could sign better. Yeah, he's not irreplaceable. He's not irreplaceable. And also, here's one, right? That's another avenue on this is, what's the big appeal about Madrid? Genuine, like, look at Madrid right now. Didn't win that last year. Were ripped apart by Paris Saint-Germain in the Club World Cup. Fans turning on Mbappe. Vinny Jr. apparently demanding €30 million a year. Alonso having egos to deal with in there. It's hardly the Galactico-laden, trophy-laden Madrid of a while back, or even under Zidane. I don't get it. I just don't get it. Like, they're a big club, of course. They're always going to be a big club, but right now, they're in an uncertain moment with a manager who hasn't even really set on a system yet to play at Madrid, as he's changed around a little bit. I think Liverpool right now are a more stable project. That's my genuine belief on it. Grim Reaper said, I wonder if Alonso is regretting taking the job. Look, I would say this. If he's given the backing of Florentino Perez to take on player power, I believe Xabi Alonso would be the right guy to do that, because I think he could strike that mix between firm but fair. And with the backing of Perez, yes, I think over time he could get to grips with the egos of that dressing room, because he has the charisma and he has the history in football with what he achieved as a player, that he can command that room and say, look, I don't care what all of you won, because I won fucking everything. Multiples of it. European Cups, World Cups, Champions Leagues at multiple clubs, league titles galore. So however big time Charlie you think you are, sitting there, been there, done it, wore the t-shirt, I know what I'm talking about. He has the gravitas to go into that room and deal with these egos, if he's given the backing. What time is it? Okay, cool. Next summer they'll try to sign Maka as their new Galactico. You look at, I can see a world where in the future Maka ends up in Spain, but I just don't think it'll be for 2 to 3 years yet, because I think his story's only starting with Liverpool. Yeah, Rob, do me a favour, Rob. All of these Liverpool fans think ISAK is leaving Newcastle. Let me just talk to you for a little minute here, Rob. So, firstly, I don't know who the fuck you are. And secondly, none of us in here, and I definitely speak for all of us, give a shit what some arsehole that none of us heard about until 5 seconds ago thinks, right? So let's start with that. And secondly, you haven't got a Scooby-Doo what the fuck you're talking about, my friend. So coming in with any definitive on this situation is laughable. From any side. Whether it's me saying Isak's 100% joining Liverpool, or whether it's you trying to come up and belittle other people. And that's all you fuckers ever have, mate, isn't it? All you trolling little shits. All you ever have is a want and a desire and a need to feel morally superior to other people. Now, I'm not wet behind the ears, mate. I've seen you come and go multiple times. And the problem that you have there, my friend, is you're insecure. And the only enjoyment that you have in your sad little existence on the internet is to try to one-up people and to try and belittle them to feel better than them. It's okay. You'll get laid someday. It'll happen. Trust Uncle Craig. I know what I'm talking about. But you're going to have to tone it down a bit and drop the attitude, because trying to feel morally superior to people only works if people know who the fuck you are. And none of us know who you are, princess. So calm it down, let the adult in the room talk, and don't dare try to come in and disrespect my community. Ain't going to happen, princess. Now toddle off back to whatever rock you crawled out from under and leave the stuff to the people who know what they're talking about. We good? Cool. Terry, thank you, sir. Appreciate you. Martin Lawrence, who I'm still absolutely convinced in my own mind is Martin Lawrence, the famous actor. Is Konate is running down his contract. He can go for free next summer or to the youth squad this season. I'm worried this will get toxic though. If it has to get toxic, Martin, it has to get toxic. But, we have to look after our own interests here. Nobody wants it to get toxic. You don't, I don't, I dare say everybody in the chat doesn't. But we have to stand our ground and we have to draw a line in the sand. This is the second time Madrid have tried this stunt. So, if we're going to pick a nose to cut off to spite our face, I think this is the nose we do. So, yeah, like I said, mate, in an ideal world, of course, nobody wants us to get toxic. Nobody wants the situation. In an ideal world, if he wants to go, there's a way it can be facilitated this summer where everyone's happy. But if we need to get down in the trenches and get dirty, then so be it. He knows as much about football as Starmer knows about politics. My dad had a lovely phrase for people like Rob a moment ago. And my dad used to say to me, son, he's a know-all who knows fuck all. And like I keep saying to you, these little clowns on the internet that think they're intelligent and better than other people are dangerous. Because there's nothing more dangerous on this planet than an idiot that thinks he's intelligent. I know I'm an idiot. But anybody who thinks that they can belittle other people needs to have a look in the mirror and ask why you feel the need to do that, rather than come in and big up or show love to somebody or make them smile. That's what's a good human being. I don't get these arseholes on the internet. They must have really miserable lives, because I want to come on and make people smile and have fun with people and, enhance their day and their experience as a human being, not belittle them. But make no mistake, I'm capable of it, as Rob just found out. Have you spoken about Ekitike? Sure have, mate. Sure have. I still just don't believe there's a world where Ekitike and ISAK and Gordon and Barnes and Alanga and Murphy all stay at the club. I don't. And also, like I keep saying, of course Newcastle are going to have to say the plan is for them to stay. Because if they don't, they're going to get fleeced. So all I can say is I don't know how it pans out. I don't. But there's no way Liverpool are going to let their number one target just go somewhere else without a fight when we badly need a striker. So we have to just trust the process for what it's worth at the minute. Trust the process, which is ironic coming from this guy, I know, but this summer I think they've earned the right for at least me to trust the process. Mr. Gamer MG said, Craig, that Stevenson guy did brilliant yesterday. He did, and to the best of my understanding, I think he's a defensive midfielder by trade. But Lucas Stevenson did really well yesterday. Yeah, and it was very interesting as well because he had to also cover for when Bradley was going up. So if we've seen Konate do it on many occasions where Trent bombed forward, you've seen Konate step across. Well, yesterday when Conor Bradley was running in that inside channel and underlapping runs, Lucas Stevenson seemed very composed and stepped across. So yeah, it was really impressive stuff from him. I thought he was very good. Very good. And Nalo looked decent in the second half as well. Itachi said, since I'm part of the Anfield Agenda, you keep me smiling every day, my friend. Thank you for being part of my life. It's a pleasure, dude. It's a pleasure. I know there's some days I'm an arky so-and-so. I just can't help that, I'm up and down. That's who I am. But I appreciate your support. Always do. Right, couple of quick things. So I'm sure you know already, but we're doing our last ever stage show at the Hot Water Comedy Club in Liverpool, Sunday 19th of October. Tickets are just £15. It's an all ages event, and this is the last time I'm setting foot on a stage because the stage fright kills me. So if you want to come and see us, it's the weekend of the Manchester United game as well. We'll be over in Liverpool, the Hot Water Comedy Club, for our last ever show. And if you'd like some fun polls, some transfer insights, and some ramblings of this Irish lunatic, then sign up to the Anfield Agenda WhatsApp community. We're about to hit 8,000 people in there, and we try to keep you up to date with the news as quickly as we can. You'll notice a pattern emerging of me posting after 3 p.m. though, because, you know, I keep weird hours. And there will be an extra long news roundup video tonight, by the way, coming up as well afterwards, where I'll go through everything from the day and try to package it up in one 8 to 10 minute video for everyone. So that'll be coming up in about 25 minutes. And tomorrow, again, don't forget, members, you're going to get the Anfield Agenda podcast at 10 p.m. tomorrow night. Check on the YouTube channel and you'll see that appear for membership holders at 10 p.m. And for everybody else, the podcast will be out at 10 a.m. on, what day is to this? No, hang on. Am I confusing myself here? Yeah, tomorrow, 10 p.m. and the podcast will then be out at 10 a.m. the following morning for everybody else on all the usual outlets. Right. Carbon, sorry. Said, hi Craig, no, we're talking football, but I remember as a kid getting the Walls of Jericho and Crippler Crossface at the same time. Worst pain I've ever felt. Yeah, that Christian Benoit Crippler Crossface was one alright, and the Walls of Jericho. The things we did, mate, the things we did in the games we played as kids, beating the crap out of each other as mates, yeah. Andy, how are we, dude? LFC Cali said, Craigo, have to vent. I'm so goddamn sick of morons ruining my football experience. First, Musk rumours of buying Liverpool. Now, Trump stealing the spotlight of the Chelsea trophy lift. Make it stop. It's just the world we're living in, Andy. Unfortunately, mate, it's a mad world sometimes. But yeah, Trump wasn't moving, was he? But you know what? He also looked really happy in that photo beside the Chelsea players. And the one thing I will say is, I thought the halftime show, the way they did it, with the way they had the stage, I thought it was cool. I have to say, I do. I thought the little platform stage that they had up on the top of the stand, it made for some good visuals, but it was still too long. And as I mentioned earlier on, they broke their own rules, because IFAB states halftime can only be 15 minutes, and that was 24. But the show was so boring. Oh, look, it's not my taste in music, but I thought visually it looked really impressive that high up with the kind of camera on the performer behind them. I thought it looked really good. Who was the halftime show? I think it was 3 or 4 different. Coldplay were at the end of it. I think Doja Cat was one of the other acts. Can't remember the other ones, to be honest with you. I just remember Doja Cat, Coldplay, and some other people I don't know. But that's me being a boomer. Would love Gordon at Liverpool. Direct, rapid, pressing monster, and more output than Diaz, in my opinion. And him being a Liverpool fan shows he'll do everything for the shirt. And the fan said, Anish, thank you, mate. Appreciate you for what it's worth. I agree, sir. But there are a lot of people who don't, and that's okay as well. What did you make of Kirkes yesterday? I thought he was good. Yeah, I thought he was good. I don't really have any negatives to talk about from performances yesterday. I thought maybe Chiesa, who had a moment for the goal, but other than that, I thought maybe he looked a little bit off the pace still, a little bit like he was still searching for a rhythm. But I thought it was a really good first run out for a lot of people. Grafenberg looked great. Trainioni I thought was good. Rio really, stole the show in the first half for me. I thought he was very good. Stevenson, like we mentioned, did really well. Frimpong, Kirkes, very good. Darwin, to his credit, very good. Good goal, decent runs. Yeah, there's not many negatives for me from that yesterday. I thought it was an interesting spectacle, and it was a good start to the pre-season. Right, ladies and gentlemen, Craig, I can see you rocking a Robbie Williams Adidas tracksuit from last night. Oh, mate, I'm going to ask you for your help in catching Adidas's eye. I don't ask for people to go on social media and do anything, but, I'd love an acknowledgement from Adidas at any point, because, as you can see, I'm an Adidas nut job. So, yeah, when that gear comes out, the Liverpool stuff, I'm going to be broke. Right. ladies and gentlemen, much love to you all. Thank you for another really fun evening. News video, roundup video coming up in the next 20-25 minutes. And again, hope to see you on our WhatsApp channel. If you want to join, just scan that QR code there on the screen. And if not, I'll see you tomorrow. Same time, same place. Thank you for your support. Much love. Bye-bye.